not from what we talked about. I don't think so.
No other questions, concerns, or?
Yeah, I have
Yes.
two questions, Paul.
Sure.
Under the yellow highlight,
Yeah.
okay, don't laugh now.
Uh-huh.
On the fourth line down, it says, under the chief's duties, it says resolution of interpersonal differences in the community. Interpersonal differences, resolutions. Can somebody give me an example of what that means?
Next door neighbors fighting with one another?
Hmm.
I mean, that's what I was
Yeah,
thinking, like, you know.
Resolution of interpersonal differences.
Hmm.
Okay,
That's the only thing that came to mind for me, feuding neighbors.
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
In Pennsylvania,
something just doesn't get
something
along
Yeah,
with each other,
yeah.
you know?
That one came out of the Marlboro job description, you know, the stuff that was lifted. You had made some suggestions, and I read them over and, you know, pulled that one out. I think, Greg, you had crossed off a bunch of stuff and put something in, and I think a lot of it was this. I think you took
Yeah.
a lot of it from the Marlboro one, and
I
I
did.
thought, after having read them, that it was broad enough and better written. So I inserted that one instead.
Yeah, because I think in ours at first, there was no mention of any, like, taking care of criminals. And I was like, well, don't we want to put that in? The police need to keep the streets safe and remove criminals from the streets. And I was like, that to me stuck right out, so.
And then the other one I
Glad we
get,
put it in.
and the other one I get on the second page, you know, and highlighted in yellow, it says bilingual ability, especially in Portuguese and in Spanish. Didn't we say that was preferred? We wanted to have it preferred?
It is under
It's
preferred.
under
It
preferred,
is.
yes.
Yeah.
If you look, there's a, I
Oh,
added
yeah,
a
okay,
section.
up top. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Since
she
most of
split
what we
that
did
up.
last time was, we tried to shuffle it into preferred to make sure that we weren't shutting too many people out, I created a whole different section.
See, I know in the past, like Jimmy, remember we used to, on every shift, we used to have like a bilingual officer, at least one or two, just to cover ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't get it, you know, maybe you get a great candidate that just doesn't fit that may be okay.
Yeah, I like the fact that you did that too.
Yeah.
I thought that was smart doing that. Stacy had a good suggestion too, from the email.
Yeah, my only other piece was I, you know, looked at this, thought all this made sense. You gave good rationale for why you kept the piece of the, this is not all inclusive at the bottom versus at the top. I was fine with that. I just think we need to call up front the civic nature, that whole notion of protecting and serving, not just the enforcing of the bad. you know.
Exactly.
So just somewhere in that first paragraph, kind of calling out
Sure.
protecting
Protect and
and
serve.
serving the people of Milford
Right.
and surrounding areas.
The human part of it.
Yep.
Sure.
Excellent point.
Good point. If no one else has anything to say, yes, Chief?
I just, a lot of the job descriptions I got, I think they might even advertise in the past for our town. They encourage people, graduates from high-level police executive schools, nationally recognized around the country, like the FBI National Academy and Perth. And I would think that could be something, would be like a preferred.
Do we want to put that under preferred, or do we want, and I want to ask Jody this, because you'll know better than me, is that something better to just put on the posting?
Maybe,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
So then you
Yeah.
include it, but you don't, like, permanently stick it in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Those, yeah, like some of the agencies already do it in the job description, some just do it in the posting.
Sometimes a posting description and an actual job description, they're similar, but they're different in many ways, because this is one that you want to use for marketing purposes and getting, you know, a little bit more specific information of what you're looking for filling this role, versus these are all the details of what happens in that job.
And very often you'll see at the bottom, we encourage, you know, minorities and this and that, and, you know, the blurb that they put at the bottom, and I was thinking about that when you put the suggestion in. I got it kind of late yesterday, so I didn't put it on this, because I wasn't sure what we're gonna do. Can I go over this stuff when we're done, so make sure that when I
Yeah. So that
incorporate
way there,
everything, I got it
when
right?
When you have the final product,
Okay.
everything will be in that was suggested.
Yeah, I
Sure.
think, yeah, it's gonna be, not changing the summary except for Stacy's suggestion, and
You're to
then,
protect and serve.
am I removing the the mass license? Is that a yes?
No.
No?
How about just a valid driver's
Valid
license?
driver's
Valid driver's
license,
license,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and then keeping the preferred section the way it is?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine.
Get one misspell there.
Wouldn't surprise me.
That's all right. We're gonna have-
I will do the spell check before I do it.
Later.
I went back and forth with this thing a few times, and I was not even actually trying to do this, and then it wound up like it, so. It was, and I think, put in Stacy's thing.
That was
I
it.
guess, I think that's
I
it.
think that
Yeah,
it
that
was
was
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think on the summary objective, though, the last paragraph, you guys wanted to change that to get rid of the specificity between the number of full-time and part-time
More
to,
than 9
Oh,
days.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
The
Yes.
employee is required to perform all similar or related duties and is responsible for supervising greater than or more than 90 full or
Approximately
part-time.
90 full part-time employees.
Fine. Good. I appreciate everybody's input on that, really, it was great.
Yeah, these look
Thank you.
really good.
Really good. Do I have a motion if there's no other questions or concerns? Or additions?
I'll make a motion.
Well, before we, will we see the final
Sure.
product?
Mhm.
Okay, so do we need a motion to accept the final version, or are we making a
Probably.
motion to accept?
I would imagine for the
Yeah,
final.
both changes.
Okay,
Yeah, this would be for the final, so everything we mentioned, then if you read it, there's something you don't like,
Right, we
you
can
know,
do
you
it
say,
again.
I thought we said this,
yeah, sure.
okay? Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mel. Any questions, concerns, or any other input? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for that. So what we'll do with that, once it's all completed, we'll email it out to everybody. You read it, it should be exactly what we were just talking about now. And if not, of course, you just make the changes with the email. One thing I wanted to mention, I'll mention at the end of the meeting, about the emails. But anyway, so that way they will get that out. And then we'll make like 30 days, you think that's good enough?
Well, let me ask this, so the companies that we're gonna be interviewing to help with the quote-unquote headhunting, are we giving this to them to
Yes.
post, or are we
Yeah.
posting ourselves?
I think last time we posted.
I was going to ask whoever was on the committee
Yeah,
last
I
year.
believe we posted, but, and they would have the original job description in, they should have the posting description, and then they were going through the candidates.
You're right, they were going to do the candidates and give us so many, maybe 6 or whatever. And then we'd do the interview process, we'd pick the 3 or 5 or whatever.
So if we get a
We
final,
decide.
post it ASAP, right? Yeah, once we finalize, just post it.
Yeah.
We don't need to wait for them.
Good.
Do we know where to post for nationwide, though? I know we had discussion last time about some of your former connections with CGIS and whatnot, but I'm just, is this company that we're hiring to come in, are they gonna know,
They will.
obviously, where to put this to
Yeah,
get?
as a matter of fact, I
nationwide?
think that's in their job description.
Just help amplify,
Right.
like we put the home base of where it gets posted and they're
Right.
helping.
Do we have a record by any chance of the last time it was posted, where it was posted?
It's probably in that pile I left with Rick. Yeah, I can pull it out. I haven't spent a lot of time looking at it, obviously, but I can pull it out and see if we can find it. And obviously, we do the town's website.
Yeah.
And do we remember how long the last posting was? Was it 30 days, was it?
It was probably a minimum of 30 days.
Okay.
And I think it depends on how many candidates you get during that time period. You want people that are fairly qualified.
Right.
It may have to be longer if you don't get enough of the right candidates right away.
Okay.
Which would bring us to our next, so that way there, we can more or less intertwine the two, the job description and also the RFP for the search consultant. We, again, to repeat myself for effectiveness, we did get funding already for this committee, and that would also help with the search consultant as well, because why put an RFP out if we don't have the money, and we've got to wait till town meeting and keep our fingers crossed hoping it passes, because nothing is definite. So anyway, one of the questions that I was asked by Rick, where this is an RFP, and it more or less would be exempt from 30B, the Procurement Act, where, you don't have to more or less put it out for bid. Let's say you could send it to various agencies. And what I was asked where time is of the essence for us as well, because you got to understand, and we all know this, once we get that out and we start getting interested parties, we have to now interview these interested parties and pick whoever that we want. That's going to take time. And of course, at least 30 days for the consultant, because of the, as you saw, the paperwork that's involved that they have to submit to Rick. So what I was going to ask is if I can have a vote where Kristen got several agencies that actually served other police departments in Massachusetts, some similar to ours, if we could just at least start with them and send that out to them. Everybody clear on that?
Yeah, so if I could ask a question. So this list of vendors, these are probably the likely folks that would reply anyway?
Right,
The big
exactly.
players in Massachusetts?
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's great, and there's a cross-section of them, so
Right.
I'm fine with that.
Right.
Does it have to be advertised like broadly, just to any other companies that we might not know about?
If we do, from what I understand, if we do, we could, but it's not mandatory. Because it's not a bid.
Right, yeah, that's great. Paul, let me ask a question. Hypothetically, when we do all our advertising, and we end up, as a committee, where do we stand? We end up with 4 applicants that are just horrible. We don't want any one of them. Do we have to do this all over again?
If we don't like them, if they're
It's-
not
it's-
gonna help out
We'd have to
ourselves
advertise again.
There's nothing written down where we...
to fulfill our goals. Again, it's a proposal. If we don't like their proposal, it's not like a bid where we gotta take the lowest bid because that's the way the state wants us to do it, or our funding. It's a proposal that should meet our needs. And if we feel as though that proposal isn't meeting our needs, then we gotta keep searching.
So there's no minimum as far as how many applicants we get? If one person shows up, let's say nobody wants to come in. We'd start
We
again?
start again.
Okay.
Is there a point that we'd assume the responsibilities, not that we'd want to, but,
Right, if that comes to that point, that's why we're here.
okay.
It's not mandatory that we have a consultant. It's great that we do. And the majority of municipalities did have a search consultant, and they praised them and thanked them for their assistance. But if not, then I guess it leaves it all up to us.
I have a question. Is there any value to asking the consulting company to tier out the applicants? So that you have like your preferreds and you have them in categories,
Yeah.
so that if you do exhaust the higher pool, I mean, typically when you look at somebody and their qualifications on paper and you interview them, sometimes what's on paper is better than what you see on person
Exactly.
or on paper, and you interview them, but you might have a second tier candidate that might be glowing when you interview them, but it just doesn't resonate on their resume. So would it be beneficial to open up the number of candidates and
Sure.
then just tier them out, and then we just take those first 6 if that's the number,
It's
so that we
fantastic,
don't
right.
run out of a pool of
Right,
candidates?
and that's something that we could more or less convey to the agency when they come to be interviewed with us, to let them know that's one of our desires. We want to look at everybody. So the one that the 3 that we actually, put out for the selectmen to pick, are those that are actually, we feel as though that are best to serve our town.
Absolutely. And I like that tiering idea. I think it's important, especially when it comes to our local candidates. I'd really like to look at them and not have them discounted.
Exactly.
Just my opinion.
It is a good opinion. Yeah, that's very good. Then, yeah, that's exactly right. And that's why it's up to us when we interview the agencies to let them know what we need and want from them. So that's all set then. I could ask Rick, I could tell Rick to go ahead and do that. Okay.
So what's it gonna be, more of an invitation to these, let's say, 5, to see if they're interested? And
And if there's anything else, like,
would we post outside of just these 5?
I think we should.
Okay.
I think we should. That way there instead of getting somebody that we don't, at least that's more of a variety, to pick from.
Well, like she said, I mean, I've had in the past people come in with resumes that are like this, this thick, and talking to them for 15 minutes, like, wow.
Wow.
This ain't happening. So it takes more than paperwork. So.
Exactly.
And you also have the other exact opposite. You're like, oh, this
Exactly.
person's interesting, but maybe, and then when you talk to them, you're like,
Exactly.
this
Right
person's
on the money,
fantastic. Yeah.
Now, are you talking more about the consultants or the applicants?
Applicants.
Consultants.
I mean, the
Yeah.
consultants, they
Both.
can only do
Yeah,
so
both.
much.
It goes
This is
both
what we
ways,
have,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
luck, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and it's
I
up to us.
That's a good point, because this is our responsibility. These candidates are our responsibility to pass
Yeah.
on to the select board, so.
Where did you advertise last time for the consultants? Is this something that just kind of goes in the paper, or how did they?
And I can't remember, I wish I could. But yeah, we did interview the consultants that came in. And they actually, I think we had 3 of them that did presentations for the committee.
Good.
That's how the comps, we sent out the invitation RFPs to specific people who I had actually spoken to on the phone just by happenstance, and they said, oh, let us know when this is coming up, and we sent it out to them directly, but then we also put it up on the website and did all the, the proper channels and did the formal thing. And I don't know how many we wound up with, but they all came in and did presentation stuff too. And it's amazing what happens when you see them face to face. You think they're all going to be the same, and they were really different. A lot of it has to do with who's delivering the message, And have somebody really good, it makes a difference. So that's important to get that face to face, I think, or at least a Zoom.
But what I took out of that is this list, you'll probably reach out to, we should reach out to directly, but then we publish so that if there are others out
There-
there in
there
the
are others out there.
ecosystem, they can,
I think one of the requirements that we should consider is, are they familiar with Massachusetts?
Yes,
I mean, someone from, like I said, from California or Wisconsin, are they gonna know what we really need?
and that's what I was getting at earlier. Are these going to be the likely folks that respond anyway?
Right.
Right? So that's,
Well, if they're in the business, they're looking at town websites anyway, looking
Yeah.
to see who's trying to find a police chief or whatever it is that they do.
Surprisingly, if I recall from the last time, even people from like Michigan, companies from Michigan did a lot of work in Massachusetts. So they do get around, and it just depends on what their experience has been.
I think the comp study people from Indiana or something.
You know,
But
some of these chiefs that are these people, applicants, they've been enforcing law from other states that are totally different than us. We're under the statute system, where they have the penal code, the motor vehicle laws are all different. So there's a lot to consider when just switching states, and it's a whole new legal system for them.
right. I think we're talking though about the groups that are gonna help us source
The
the talent.
consultants.
We're talking
Yeah.
about those consultants,
Okay.
yeah.
Right.
So I think it's not as, to your point, I think the consultants could come from anywhere if they have a strong understanding and have sourced talent
Sure.
before for this state.
Sure.
But to your point, I think that's gonna be
Yeah.
a deciding factor or one thing that might differentiate someone for the talent that we're looking for.
And that's why a knowledgeable consultant would more or less do a lot of the screening for us. Again, like I said, during our interviews with them, would let them know too that we do want the second tier as well, that they feel as though could be, qualified or meet the qualifications to come before us for an interview.
So how fast do you think we can get an advertisement put out to start trying to get these consultants? And what are we gonna do, 30 days like we
Yeah,
talked about
Anthony,
last time?
I would hope like by next week, Rick could at least start sending out the packet to the agencies that Keith was referring to.
Sure.
And then we'll get something else out as well.
And then put one, like 30 days on it?
30 days, yeah, because it's gonna take at least that to get the, as you if you've read what is required for them to produce to us.
I don't know that we could go too much longer too, because if we have to
No,
invite them in.
Exactly, now you gotta invite them in, you gotta
presentations,
interview
pick
them, and now there's also the interviews with the candidates.
Yep.
So like I says, I'm glad we got the job description approved,
I do think we need to think though, because we were talking about getting the job rec out like ASAP, but if they're the qualifying party, we don't want to get the job rec out
posting, yeah.
too far in advance of that.
Exactly.
If we've got to.
I thought the same thing
Yeah.
as we were all talking about and saying that, if they're gonna help us with that, and if we have like several candidates that are already applied and, they're coming to us, at least have them vet them first,
Yeah, we don't want to disenfranchise the talent, because the
No.
worst thing you can do is have somebody
Right.
submit a job to a job and not hear anything for 40 days.
So that's why it's imperative that we have this consultant as first.
Or
We
at
can
least
also do
close
things
to.
prepare.
Yeah.
Right, we can prepare a job posting that they can, review.
Sure.
And think about, what are the skill sets that we want to interview for. We can come up with our own interview questions, things like that. We can prepare in advance.
Good.
100% agree.
Excellent.
I'd say to that point, if you're gonna post that far in advance, right, you'd have to obviously disclose something on there that, you know, this isn't happening for a couple of months or so, so to your point, they don't get
Exactly.
Yep.
discouraged that,
Yep.
geez, I applied for this
Yeah, I
haven't
in,
heard.
you know, June, and I haven't heard anything. Well,
Yeah, we
whatever
can put it
case
on the
may be.
job posting. And the other thing I can do,
Yeah,
if everyone's interested, and I won't do it if you don't want me to, reach out to the same community and ask them what they've used for police chief job interview questions, because sometimes they have something that'll give you a real jump start. You don't have to use everything, you can, you know, look it
Sure.
over,
Okay,
but if you don't
yeah.
want
I
to
think
see it,
that'd
that's
be very
okay
helpful.
too.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
Like I said, how often does a municipality do it? You know, I mean, you know, you're going the right way. I mean, maybe once every 10 years, every 15 years, maybe. You know, so like I said, we're all a little green with this, and that's why we need this consultant to help us with all this. Any other questions on that? Then moving right along, we'll go to the confidentiality policy. I emailed Jerry Moody and Brian Murray, our town council, and I sent him a sample of what we should do as well as that reason for the confidentiality. Brian recommended a policy instead of a signed agreement, because here, you know, we won't have to be chasing everybody to sign it. You sign your policy yet? I mean, you know, your agreement yet? So he said maybe the best would be a policy, which you all have, and that would be, if you read it over and if you agree, it's just more or less basic of what we had in that first letter that I had for you last meeting. And if so, we'll just vote on it and make that a policy for us that we have to abide by. Okay?
I have a question.
Sure.
So, just from a legal standpoint, what do you do for the people who aren't here? Are you just gonna have a second vote at the next meeting to make sure that they're gonna agree to the same terms?
We could do that, or we could wait until, you know, we do have a full board, or what we could do is, if it's a majority vote like we have, maybe email them the policy saying this was agreed on by the majority of the committee members. You know,
Yeah,
and
any
and this is our
objections,
policy now.
Would they still
Because,
have to sign
because
off on it?
even if it's seven, if
think
it's,
they'd have to acknowledge it.
let's say they were here, you know, and it was like 10 to 2, we still have the policy, you know?
Yeah, and to the point that was just made in this side conversation, they reply that they acknowledge and accept.
Sure.
So that we now have.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Do I have a motion to accept this as our policy for us to have for a confident?
Yeah, I understand.
A motion by Ronnie,
Second.
second by Chief Falvey. Any other comments or questions or concerns? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The other thing is that I need to vote on, because like I said, it wasn't on the agenda because I sent the agenda out earlier. I spoke to Zach Taylor, our financial director, and what he mentioned was that now that we have these funds for for our committee, that we need a signatory, and, you know, if he asked if you could elect me to be the one that would sign all the bills or invoices, but also to know that I'd have to also have everybody, you know, after I sign something, everybody would get a copy of it at our next upcoming meetings. So it wouldn't be something that would be just my knowledge, it'd be the committee's, but just say he needs a bill signed or something quick, that you would elect me to be the signatory for that part of the budget.
I'll make a motion for that.
Okay, a
Make
motion
Paul
by-
Mazzucchelli the signatory.
Keith, any seconds? Thank you. All in favor? Thank you for that. Again,
Second.
Melanie, anything that I have or any bills that are brought up, you know, be it for something we need off the search committee or whatever, you know, we'll definitely, we'll have a copy of that and make it part of our record. Okay?
Paul, do we need a motion for to put the RFP, to put the job posting up before the RFP? You said something about that earlier, but.
Yes,
I don't remember.
okay, I thought we did.
What does it say?
We probably did not. Okay, then, yeah, remember we were just talking about the RFP for the consultant? If we could have it, at least permission from the board to send out to the agencies that were given to us by the other municipalities. Motion by Stacy, second by Keith. Any discussion?
The only question I would have is that, are those the agencies on this vendor list? Is that who we're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Exactly,
All right,
yeah.
perfect.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good, thanks.
And then 30 days will obviously be from when we post either on the town website for the additional vendors. So what, obviously, I'm assuming we're just giving these folks a little extra time.
Yeah, hopefully, Anthony, maybe by the middle of next week, we can send it all out.
Okay.
But probably from then until now, we'll have like a website or something, or some sort of address that we could send, you know, like out for other agencies if they want to apply. So that way everyone's on the same playing field.
But when we contact these folks direct, we're gonna tell them that it's a 30-day.
Yeah, we're
turnaround
gonna
to
send it
try
right out to them.
Okay.
Probably Wednesday, and hopefully maybe Monday or Tuesday, Rick will have something, or maybe Chief Albee can give him some, a website to put it on, you know?
Yeah.
And that way there, everyone's, you know, on an even playing field.
We're not waiting for the final decision for the job consultant to post the job description though, right? Like Dave was talking about before. Anthony, sorry.
So why don't, if you don't mind,
Please.
just because I want to make sure I get this right in my head. So I'm going to be reaching out, Jody has some interview questions, I'm going to be reaching out for more interview questions. If we take the time for the next meeting to go over what we want in the posting and the interview questions and just get all that information that she's talking about, that buys you another couple of weeks while that stuff's all out there, so we don't have to make them wait longer. And maybe while we're deciding that, we can put in the posting that there's this window, and that it's going to be a process. Maybe we can put a loose timeline or something in there about how it's not going to, they're going to have to wait to hear back from us. I'm not sure how that's going to be written.
Interviews planned by July or June,
Something,
whatever, something like that.
Something we can talk about.
The procedure that I believe is followed, that had been followed in the past with past search committees, is that the search committee agencies will be sending their proposals to Rick. Because that's what it says in the proposal that we all had at the first meeting. It said it would go to the town administrator, and then he would review them and then give them to us.
So I think we're mixing two, we keep going back and forth between the RF, or maybe I'm just getting it mixed up.
Me too.
Yeah, so there's the RFP stuff, you're sending that like ASAP, probably tomorrow or Monday, right?
Right.
Kind of thing,
Right.
to those vendors.
Mhm.
Then we're gonna publish the request for RFP on some public link,
Mhm.
so that any additional
So any additional can
agencies-
come too, so that way
Yeah,
everybody's
yeah.
equal.
But then, your question was, so when are we making the job rec available, and are we waiting, or are we going like ASAP with
Okay.
posting that?
That's
I think
something we can.
that's gonna be-
that's
And
something
that
we
was
can
the
discuss now.
question
Important.
that we're
And one
going
of
to.
the, you brought up a good point just a little while ago, that where this agency is going to be helping us out with that.
Right.
Should we wait for them?
That is the big question, or do we at least wait until we're closer to that end of that 30-day
Right.
window?
Right.
I
So
think that's
that,
the way to do it. We still send it out, but not right now, because you, remember what you just said too, not too early.
yeah,
Just want to be careful that whatever we
Right.
post,
Mhm.
right, now we hire this consultant company and they come in and say, you shouldn't have put this, or you should
Sure.
have included
Yeah.
this.
Okay.
Not that you can't amend it.
Right,
But I
right.
would just be concerned that if someone sees the initial and then maybe misses something, is it going to make some people not want
Yeah.
to, some people, I mean, if we get it looked at by legal and we can post it and we don't think that this consultant
Yeah,
is gonna come in and make any
tear
significant
it apart,
changes
right.
that's gonna really influence who's coming and who's not, I'd say there's no issue. I mean, timeline is obviously gonna be a huge factor, because if it's gonna take us a while, 30 days just to get the
Just
names,
to get right.
interview.
Right.
Now, if we are waiting for them to tell us, Okay, that's what you should put out for everyone. Now,
Now, there's more time spent.
are we hurting ourselves by
I
only
think
putting
we
this
are.
out for 20, the minimum 30 days?
We don't
So
wanna
we still
keep
have to interview
candidates
these
waiting.
guys, and we're
Right.
trying to get an answer by the end of
Right, I
September.
think you made a good point too, Anthony. I think probably toward the end of the 30 days for the consultant, then we post the job description after legal looks at it, HR can look at it again, you know, whatever. And
just
and
hope
we
they
all
don't
look
come
at
in
it,
and
you
make
know,
any
once it's all the
significant
final
changes.
product, you know?
That can be part of the interview process of the consultants
Yeah.
that we talk to,
Mhm.
if you ask them those kind of questions.
Especially since probably when you put the RFP out, are you gonna send those select groups, at least those 5, will you send them the job rec too, or I don't know what the number is?
That probably wouldn't be a bad idea.
Right.
If they're willing to look at it and give us any feedback on what they would do. You know, you hate to kind of piggyback off them and use them, but if they're going to give us helpful suggestions, if one's more helpful than the other, they come in here, they do a good presentation and say, this is what we think is an effective job description, that might be a helping factor,
That's
a
a good
deciding
idea.
factor in who we're going to use.
Yeah, sure. I think we should probably send a job description with that too, so they could look at it and give us advice.
It's a good idea, yeah.
Excellent. Other than that, we had a good meeting. I think we got a lot done, and I don't have anything else on the agenda. Anybody else have anything to add, or,
I'd just like to add one thing, I'd like to say, just to piggyback on what you were saying before, the input from everybody
it's amazing.
is fantastic, because we
It really
have
is.
such a good, diverse type of group of experience and people that have, all the ideas sort of come together. It's really good to be a part of
It
it.
really is. It really is. Thank you very much. Really. If nothing else, motion to adjourn. Motion by Anthony, seconded by Chief. All in favor?
All right.
All right?
I can see Gunsmoke.